There you go. Now,
Hey, everybody, welcome. This is going to be an interesting program today because we've got a major announcement that I'm going to get to it later, but I'm going to announce it now. We've forged a really good, over the years, a good relationship with a fabric company called Greenhouses. You guys heard me talk about that. But we're going to be furthering that relationship. We're not sure exactly, we haven't defined it yet, but we're going to be offering through my expertise at giving yardages and recommending certain patterns, and not only myself but Michaela together, she being the artist and me being the upholsterer. I think we are a good team to consult on fabric. So we're looking to broaden our fabric sales basically to the internet, to you guys. It's only continental United States though, Patrick. I found that out. It's not going to be overseas sales, unfortunately. So for all our overseas friends, I'm sorry. It's just going to be within the United States. It's just too many issues with shipping overseas, Patrick. I don't know if you know that. I know Patrick's got a cold, so he doesn't want to be talking too much today, but he doesn't have to answer me. But anyhow, I'm really excited, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about Greenhouse later. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about, for our beginners out there, how to estimate, easy ways to estimate yardages, and also patterns and how patterns work, and flowing patterns with geometric patterns. I mean, there's all different types of ways of upholstering, and actually Nico, I'm gonna segue nicely into Nico's. She's got a very nice. Did you see this? This is really good. She did a really good job, and I think I'm going to start with her. I'm not sure if my greenhouse friends are watching. I don't know if this is a greenhouse fabric, but we're hoping to sell more of those. Anyhow, I'm going to get going. So stay tuned until the end because I really want to. I have a couple of greenhouse books with me. I want to go over some of the specs, some of the nice things that I like about the line, and the price points and all that. I'll get to that later, and I'll also go over some orders that I've done with yardages on them and why certain yardages. But before I get into everything, and I want to say hello to Lee. Says hi, and Malcolm's here. Patrick, do I scroll down? I don't know how to do this. Lee says, "Where is Greenhouse Fabrics?" I'm glad Lee asked that. So Greenhouse Fabrics is in North Carolina, and they're a woman-owned company, which I love that idea. And I talked to all. I think let me see if I can remember some of the names. There's Heidi, there's Sandy, there's Lainey, there's Tabitha, there's all. How many? Who else do you talk to, Michaela? Do you remember some of the names? I must talk to at least a dozen. I'd say a dozen. And there's a guy in there somewhere too. He's a nice guy. But it's nice talking. They have that little southern accent, so it's kind of nice. And they appreciate my Boston accent. So it's fun. And mainly the reason is their professionalism, their knowledge, their availability on the fabrics, their turnaround times, their shipping department. I mean, they have a really good team. And if you guys have worked with other fabric companies, I won't name any, but sometimes it can be very cumbersome working with the fabric company, not Greenhouse. So I hope that if you're watching this, you're gonna maybe we're gonna set it up so that you can purchase Greenhouse fabrics through us. And we don't know exactly how we're going to set that up yet, but we'll let you know. Today, I just want to talk a little bit later on about it. But that answers Lee's question right off the. Oh, Tabitha is here. I'm here. Thank you, Tabitha. Tabitha from Greenhouse is here. Thank you. And Lee is saying, "Is Greenhouse Fabric has a website?" I'll ask Tabitha. I guess Tabitha, yeah, I'll let you go with it. Whatever you want to do, don't worry. I haven't really decided how you and I are going to forge this relationship yet. But if you want to answer Lee's question, feel free in any way you want. Don't worry about it. Anyhow, you'll be helping me in the live broadcast. I want to talk. There's a lot to talk about today, Pat and Michaela. I had this unusual project. I don't usually get out in-house projects much anymore, except yesterday on a Sunday. You can believe it. I usually leave my Sundays alone, but I got a call from a woman in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and we were talking, and she's in Harvard Square. She's right across from St. Paul's church where I go once in a while around Christmas time, and she's right near Harvard, and she's in the middle of and there's a Joan Baez and Dylan Patrick, if you can believe this, performed in a nightclub right across the street from her. So when she called me, I knew where she was, and I was thinking this might be a fun project for a Sunday afternoon because I'm in there. I'm usually at Harvard Square every Sunday, if you can believe it. It's such an interesting place. I hope some of that, some of those smart people rub off on me, Patrick, but it hasn't happened yet. But it's fun. So she had a 19th century. Somebody corrected me the other day, and I'm sorry, misspoke. I think I called the Victorian era 18th century, which would put it in the 1700s, which is incorrect. I'll say 19th century. So this was a 19th century Empire sofa on the third floor of a house, and I kind of had to figure out that this did not go up any stairs. This sofa, so I had to do it in house, and it was a repair job. It had horsehair. I had to do the bottom with some webbing, the nice webbing that we use, and I had to repair the seat top. It had loose cushions, if you can believe it. Usually those have the really high number springs, really number five springs, and they're about this big usually. But this one had loose cushions, and it had the original mohair, if you can believe it. So I did a good job repairing it. We had a great time, the customer and I, and even my wife joined in that, which is very unusual for her. She met, and they're going to have tea later on. Usually that doesn't happen, but it's fun. It was fun. So that's what I did yesterday. I just hello from Germany, Patrick. We have a fan in Germany. Did you know that? And Elliot says hi. This is going to be a lively one. I think I'm going to, if I bore you guys, I'm going to apologize now. But I think we have a lot of YouTube, and we have a lot of.
I feel that we missed last week. We never.
Well, it was a holiday, right, Patrick?
It was, yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to really, we promise, we're going to be more consistent with this every Monday. We like doing it. It's just that when you're running a shop too, it's long hours. You have to be at that shop, and we're in a different location, right, Patrick? So it's difficult sometimes, but we're going to commit to Patrick. Let's commit to this at 4 o'clock Mondays, right? We're a little late today, but so I'm going to get to Nico. Nico says, "Hi, folks. I rescued this on its way to the landfill." Exclamation! I'm really happy at how it came out. Look at this chair. What did you guys? She does. I think Tabitha, you might appreciate this. It's some good elements of design elements in this. She's got fabric on the inside and a fabric on the outside. Just want to take a look at it again. And she's got a piping. The piping's different too, I believe. Do you see that the chair that she's got the first? I think she's got the before and after here, and the after she's got 3 fabrics, and she's painted the legs. Oh, that's really artistic. I think that's beautiful. That's wonderful. I think Nico, are you doing this now? If she's on here professionally at this point, I'm just curious. Some of our students have gone on. I think of Blair a lot. I use him as a good example of somebody clever enough to use our videos, and I say that because the videos don't. I mean, it's a one-dimensional medium, right, Patrick? It's not three-dimensional. So I'm trying to show three-dimensional, trade. I guess that's the challenge with any trade person on YouTube, right? But especially upholstery, I think it's got a little. But Blair took it. He started. I like talking about this. I know I've said it before, but he started in his living room upholstering using my videos, and he started with 40 square feet of space in his living room. He went from there to 400 square feet, and then he went from there to 4,000 square feet. Now, I haven't heard from Blair in a while, maybe 2 years, I think. But you know something? That means he's busy and he's probably successful. Last time I heard, he married. I think he was on a second kid. So that's Nico. So the next one is from Jamie, and I think is Jamie on here now. I think no, but that's okay. Elliot says hi. Tabitha says nice. Love using multiple fabrics. Tabitha said. This is interesting. This is really interesting. Good morning, everyone. I have a set of 10 chairs that I want to reupholster. Wow. The seats are removable. I dislike the cording as displayed in the older pattern. I removed and would like to cover with the cranberry red velvet. I purchased at a cost of $50 for 11 yards. I don't know if we could beat that tab, but I will make a comment about this, about buying fabric with no, and I'll get to this a little bit later, but it's really a shot in the dark, guys. I'll just be honest with you. If you showed me a fabric without any labeling on it, anything, even I can't tell what the double rubs might be. You'd be very careful of this. Some of these fabrics that you get for less money, without the identification on it, are 3,000 double rubs and under, which means that they're going to wear out. These fabrics will wear out in very few seatings. That you're probably talking about, maybe if you're lucky, 2 or 3 years on average seating that you're going to get out of a fabric like that. You have to be very careful if you're going to put the effort into it. So stay tuned. If you're going to put we see you, Patrick, back there. If you're going
to my Christmas color.
if you really are going to put the effort into all that labor, I think it's very important to have the right fabric. Not only to have the right fabric, have the right amount of fabric. It can go either way there. You can get not enough, or you can get too much, and that's what we're going to be. We're going to be offering this, and I'm gonna show you a little bit about how I estimate yardage a little later, as information. Lee says he looks like Christmas.
Exactly.
And Nicole is here. Wait a minute, Nicole. Is that Nico, Patrick? Nico?
Nico.
Is that Nicole is not
What's the
Nico?
name of it?
I'm just
What's
wondering
the
if
username?
it's the
No,
same
she has
Nico.
a different username.
Oh,
That's
okay.
her name, yeah.
Okay. So let me go on. It's not as thick as other velvet, but thick enough so I can't see light through it, and it doesn't stretch. So that he's Jamie's using his. It's a him, right? Because we can do. Jamie can be a yeah. He's using his own intuition with that for sure, but I'd be careful. So I've included 2 pictures of thickness of foam or of cotton. Also wondering, should I burlap first? There was none there previously. Any thoughts except on the color choice would be appreciated. So let me just show everybody what he's got here, what he's showing us. I'll hold that up for a couple of minutes, and maybe I can look at it while I'm talking. So first, my first thought is the seat has zigzag springs. It looks like I'm seeing the bottom of the seat. Is that right? Let me look at it again. Hold on a second. Is that the back? Oh, I'm seeing the inside back. Okay. So what I'm seeing there is the inside. I wouldn't do anything to that. I would just leave it. Some people remove the zigzag springs, but there's no point in removing the zigzag springs on the back. So just go with it, because it's not going to make a difference, guys. As a matter of fact, usually I don't like zigzag springs on seats, but on backs, because they do offer a little softness, and that's probably why the manufacturer put them on the back on these. I would keep it, and I would a lot of times on the foam, if the foam is in good shape, I keep it. I mean, you can replace it. He's asking if you are going to replace it. That looks like it needs a 1 inch. I would use a medium ultra foam, and maybe depending on the fabric, he's talking about a thinner velvet. He probably wants to do a dacron over that, if it's a thinner fabric. That's interesting too. It's an interesting point. Thick fabric, usually I go with cotton, because cotton can be trimmed with your hands. And if you've seen my videos, you know how to trim cotton. It's a little easier to work, rather than securing dacron to a frame. So you always have to be careful too. If you've seen the videos, you have to be careful with your when you staple dacron, that you don't bring a big bulky piece of dacron over to the back and staple it. It's really important to keep the lines. So you see Nico's, when you see Nico's nice job that she did, she's paying attention, I can tell you that. See the lines on that piping? Keep your fabric, keep the wood crisp. You don't want bulk. This is a big mistake beginners make. They want to pull everything over to the back. But if you do that, you're going to be having to contend with a lot of problems with wrinkling, wrinkles and bulging and getting things straight. It's really hard. So that answers that, I think, on the inside. On the back. On the seat, it looks like I would probably just do webbing. I would do your seat webbing on the seat, on the top of the frame, right in here, right up on top. And then always start from the back to the front, stretching. You don't want to start on the front rail to the back stretching. And if you've seen the videos, I mean, there's some basic things that you do. And that's one of them. The reason is that you're going to be putting a lot of tension on there, and you should have a webbing stretcher. If you don't have a webbing stretcher, you can use a pair of pliers, and you might have seen me do this hack in some of these videos. You can secure the back, and with your pliers, you'll have the front won't be flapped over yet, but you'll be able to pull. You can cut it like at 2 inches. You do want to pre-cut it if you're using a pair of pliers. Cut it about 2 inches overside, and then take the pair of pliers and twist the pliers to the front. As long as you don't have a wood, all these problems that come up. As long as the front isn't finished, you want to pull it. And each time you pull it with the pair of pliers, you drop a tack or staple in it. You want to do that at least 5 times across the webbing. That actually, guys, that actually duplicates the prongs on the webbing stretcher. Do you follow me? So there's all these little hacks, and I think I'm not sure if I've shown these hacks with people who don't have the proper tools, but you can get away with them. We have done the pop button video, Patrick, that shows a hack. We did 2 of those. One is the hack using tools from you, and one is with professional tools. So you web it. You've seen the videos where you web and you interlace the webbing using the webbing stretcher, and then burlap. Definitely, he's asking about burlap. Definitely need burlap, or you can get away with a fabric. I think what the goal here is, you fill in the little. It's going to look like a checkerboard after you web it, and you want to fill those little holes in with something. Okay, you just can't leave it. Okay, and I think that answers all of his questions. Uh, I think so. Oh, he's asking about foam thickness on the seat. That's actually there's a lot of intuitive questions in this little page here. Foam, you always want to decide. Scale is so important on padding too, as well as fabric, obviously, but on padding. So I wouldn't do anything more than a 2-inch seat on this, and it looks like it's an old dining chair, I guess. You might want to check your height. You want to make sure that your floor height. You want to check it with another dining room chair to see what the proper height is. I think on dining chairs they're like I want to say 18 inches. They're a little higher than your sofa would be, believe it or not. But you want to make sure you pay attention to that, and you never want a really soft seat on a dining room chair, because that you collapse into the chair and your shoulder height's not relevant, or not in scale or proper height with the table. So it makes dining a little difficult. Dining room chairs are a little different than your living room chairs for that reason. So pay attention to that stuff. Let me catch up with some of the comments. Elliot says that's the bottom of the seat, which is standing out against the back. It's no point in back make it. I don't know. I don't know what that means. I'm wondering if cotton holds more dust than Dacron. Lee's asking a good question. Cotton. This sofa that I repaired the other day, it was like you're walking through a forest. This sofa. It had beautiful mahogany wood. It had horsehair. It had felt. It had cotton, and the fabric was mohair. And I think there was like jute twine in there. It was all organic. I don't think there'd be any problem putting this sofa in the middle of a forest and just letting it just biodegrade into the floor of the forest. That's what I love about old furniture, you guys. So if you can use cotton, I just mentioned, if you can use cotton, cotton is wonderful. I don't think no, cotton is covered with the fabric, so it doesn't really have a chance to collect anything really. I think cotton's the best thing to use as long as the fabric allows it, right? Um, D says, I'm upholstering an antique rocking chairs with leather. Any advice? Leather's leather's tough. Leather's one of the harder materials to use. You need a lot of strength for leather, and depending on what the rocking chair is, there's a lot. If it's a pull or anything pull over with the leather, or fabric for that matter, but especially leather, there is a lot of pin tacking. And you guys, if you've seen the videos, you know that the thing that gets us stuck, us beginners out there stuck, you beginners out there stuck. If you don't watch the videos, you're going to take the patterns. Most people logically figure, okay, if that went on there, that's what I'm going to cut it. That's the cut. It's not the cut. It's been cut down after it's been put on. So it's the fabric or the leather is actually it's 3 inches longer. It's an inch and a half longer on each side, basically, when you're doing pullovers. So that's for you. You can hold on. You can grab hold of it without pliers. It has to be your fingers. You can't do this work pulling fabric with pliers. It's impossible because you lose the feel of it. You really need to know. And I'm big on this because that's how I was taught. The stretching. This is where a lot of people with things get left out in the trade. And it's not your fault. You didn't have the benefit of masters, European masters like I had, but they paid a lot of attention to pulling, stretching, and pulling. And knowing just how much to pull it. Leather has to be pulled more than fabric. A wool has to be pulled more than a cotton. Things like that. That's what I like about the business. Really, that there's so many variables, and that's what makes it fun. And we'll get to the variables of yardages and pattern matching later. So I think that took care of that. And I'm gonna catch up you guys with some comments. So I'm sorry I misspoke. Somebody made a comment about I said I said 18th century Victorian. It's funny to me now, but that's not right. um, let's see. Okay, so I think we're caught up. So now we're on YouTube. One of the YouTube. So what I do for you guys who are just tuning in, maybe I read the comments from the YouTube, and we don't hide away from the negative comments, right, Patrick? We're
Yeah, I got one last week that I
yeah,
loved.
you got one.
Yeah, I guess I was too loud and I was lewd and I was obnoxious.
You had to take all those things.
Yeah. Disgusting, filthy,
Really?
an animal, yeah,
Oh
everything.
no, that's not
I couldn't
nice.
believe it.
That's not nice. It's okay. We need to sometimes pull the big boy pants up.
Well, like I
Right?
said, you're dealing with two Irish guys from Boston, so you're gonna get loud.
Yeah,
You're
I
gonna
like
get-
to I like to say that the Irish Irish accent, the Boston accent. I've mentioned this before, but I think it's really funny.
you know,
25 years ago, everybody was ashamed of their Boston accent, and in the adult ed classes, used to have classes they would call "How to Reduce Your Boston Accent."
well, I know one thing. Obviously, that person's never been in a room with a bunch of Irish guys.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, these movies came out. All these Boston movies with the brothers there, Patrick. What do they call the brothers that made the movies?
Brother,
You know who I mean.
the
Oh,
Affleck?
yeah. All these guys, they made these movies, and now everybody loves the Boston accent.
Michaela even says that I'm bad, but she hasn't been in a room with my cousins.
Nicole
Oh my
says,
God, she'll never make it.
Nicole says, Goodwill Hunting. That was one of them, right, Pat?
Yeah.
Um,
Jimmy's another one. Jeez.
Jimmy's got a real Jimmy's accent. Now he's works for a major metropolitan transportation. I won't tell you what it
You
is.
already mentioned it a million times. Hey,
But you want to talk about Boston? I mean, Jimmy. You go to Wikipedia and you put in Boston. There's a picture of Jimmy in there. But anyhow, let's get back to business here, Patrick. We're getting off subject here. Deconstruction of a dining room chair. S says, perhaps perfect. Thanks for showing how to remove the back of the chair because there are no screws. I'm not sure what that reference is, but it's fun. And then the Upholstery Show Live. That's nice. Cowhide. They're asking about cowhide, Patrick, but I'm not sure.
and that was Nico.
Was that Nico?
Yeah.
Okay. And somebody's just saying hello at the Upholstery Show, and then fixing a pop button. This is a good question. Okay, dumb question, but no, I don't think any question's dumb. Where do I find thick, strong thread lying around the house? Now that's interesting because there's a simple solution to that. if you even have a small, like a hand stitching thread that that small cotton, what's wrong with doubling or tripling that up? If you double or triple or even quadruple up that thread up, I guarantee you it's going to be like the nylon thread. There's no way you're going to break it. But make sure though, when you do that, you just pull it. Have somebody try to pull it and rip it because you don't want to go through all the trouble of fixing this button and having that break. But other than that, I do use a nylon thread. That's my thread for buttons. Um, and then how to make double piping. Somebody did a thumbs up. I show an easy way of doing double piping. I mean, sometimes you have to speed yourself up a little bit, and I think I have a really good way of doing it. That's also safe. And it's interesting when you're doing double piping. If you miss a little bit of stitching on the first stitching that you do, it ruins the whole. You could have 20 yards of double welting, and you can have this little bubble in the double piping because you missed the stretching on the first. Take a look, reference the double welt video, and you'll know what I'm talking about because I think I mentioned it there. So again, I'm trying to help. I mean, again, I respect people who have learned from me on this. On the videos because I had the pleasure of actually working next to the masters. They were showing me, they would correct my mistake right away or verbally or just jump in and do it. But anybody that can do from this, I have to give you guys credit. I really do. And we've had a lot of people who just wanted to just upholster one chair or a sofa in their house, and then they're done with it. Actually, we just got a donation of some tools from Gretchen Patrick. She donated some tools that she used. She did what she needed to do. I think she did like 3 pieces, and she donated. Not only that, she sent me into see a concert, which was nice. Just catch up. Goodwill Hunting, I'll say. Club chair reupholstering A to Z, part 7. Part 7, Patrick. How many parts? Do you remember how many parts that was on that? That's the paid one, right? That's paid. How to fix arm of fabric tufted couch that has been shredded by a cat. Yeah, it's tough. Well, depending on the damage, sometimes you can cut the threads, and I'm going to give you a little hack. It depends on the damage. If and the fabric. Some fabrics, if it's all threaded out and it's coming out this way, you could cut the threads back and then take little dabs of Elmer's glue, the clear Elmer's glue, and take a needle and dab the threads. And if you don't have a regulator, which most people don't, you could take a knitting needle, and actually that actually works good because it's a little thicker on the end, and poke after you put a little dab of glue, poke the ends in, and a lot of fabrics works great, and you won't even see the damage. So it does depend on the fabric and the extent of the damage. There are ways of taking an outside back off of a sofa and upholstering the arm. That's a little bit in detail. You can pick up these things on the videos. You can learn on the videos how to do that. And somebody's thinking that pop button, Patrick, was the most. I don't know how many views are on that, but they're thanking me for that. So again, and Gary says 18th century. Uh, 18th century Victorian shit. Now I look at it. I look at it and say, "Huh, that is really." Well, I won't use that word, but anyhow, I'll read what he says. He says, "Please tell someone has explained already that there is no such thing as an 18th century Victorian exclamation points. Victorian refers to styles of production stemming from the reign of Queen Victoria, beginning in 1838, and I think lasting until 1901, which he doesn't say now. So I corrected Gary. So now we're even. And those chairs date to the mid 19th century, just prior to Prince Albert's death." What's that joke about Prince Albert in a can, Patrick? Did you ever hear that joke? He's too young for that, you guys. The Upholstery Show Live, another good comment. Glad to find you here today. I worked for Salome Furniture in Massachusetts, for a little over 3 years in the upholstery department. I was limited to only upholstering 8 different chairs and want to learn other types. The company is closing down, so they laid me off yesterday. I'm sorry about that. I'd love to stay in this field of work. Well, I think, this field of work. I talked about this before. The actual knowledge base isn't that great compared to other things. It's the skill level. It just takes repetition. So I would just find a way of just upholstering, repetition. Use the videos. That's what gets you good, is the repetition. Once you learn that you have the knowledge base, the tools, the supplies, and things like that. Later we'll talk about the fabrics, but I would encourage anybody. I think upholstery is coming back. I thought that one of the problems is not finding a place or a person to be able to teach it. That's one of the reasons why I started this YouTube channel, is because even COVID knocked us out of the adult ed game. We're just getting back to that, I think, Patrick, right? We're going to be teaching over in Lexington, Massachusetts in April. And that's coming up. And so hopefully that will be something that will continue. It's never been a lack of students in those classes. I think at my peak, 4 classes a week before, Patrick, this is before you got involved in the upholstery when you were young. 4 classes with 12 people each in the classes. Can you believe that? So where's your math? 48 people a week we had in those classes. That was through Brookline, Massachusetts. And I don't know if I can read this, Patrick. It is too small. Let me see. But
You want to try?
let me see.
She can do it.
Yeah, could you read those, Michaela? It's just 4 out of 5 of them.
Just the comments?
Yeah.
So very thankful for you, sir. Could one use denim if we don't have access to burlap?
Yes. I think I mentioned that you can substitute some materials. What substituting? I wouldn't substitute the seat webbing, for instance, with that black back webbing. I wouldn't use that for a seat. There's some things you shouldn't do. But as far as the burlap goes, remember, you're only filling in the holes that the webbing is burlap. And denim's an expensive alternative to the burlap. So that's okay. You got another one there, Michaela?
Yep. My foster puppy just ate 2 of my upholstered buttons from my gorgeous couch.
Oh no.
Your video has saved me. I still need to figure out how to make new buttons. Checking out all your videos, hoping you will show me how.
There is a way of making a hand button, but it's difficult with the smaller buttons. On bigger buttons, we used to make them by hand. So what you do is you take your fabric, cut it a little bit bigger, probably like a 1/2 of an inch bigger than the shell of the button, and then you run with a curved needle. You run a thread all the way around, and reference my button, how to put buttons back on video, and you'll see how to tie. We go through a lot of process with that slip knot, don't we, Patrick? Do you remember that? That was a hard thing to film too, wasn't it? We go through the whole process of a slip knots are the greatest thing in upholstery, you guys. So you tie a slip knot you take the ends should be loose. You tie the slip knot, really pull it tight, and that will wrap the fabric around the top, the front of the button. You'll have to practice this a few times before you get it right. You can even do it on a small button if you're really good at it. If you get good at it. So that the only alternative to that, I do not buy craft store button makers. They do not work. The button will just fall off. The only alternative to that is we have a big cast iron button maker with all these dies, these different size dies, and it's expensive. Of course, I have one, but that's how we make buttons. And I'm going like this because you have to slam it down and make the button. And making buttons, there's a little bit of an art to making those buttons too, because the last thing you want, you tuft a beautiful settee with all these 100 buttons. The last thing you want is one of these buttons to pop, and then you're in trouble. So you want to make sure. So that's why you test each button that you make. You thread a big heavy thread, and you hold on to the button like so, and you pull it to see if it pulls away. Is there another? There should be another one there, right, Michaela?
Yep, there's 2 more.
Okay.
Where where is the video between part 1 and part 2? I want to see what the webbing and the horsehair application, and that's on the amazing 1800 sofa part 2.
Yeah, I have
There's
to.
no video between it.
Yeah, I have to apologize. Some of the, in the course of running a shop and making a living and eating, you don't always. There's not always that fluidness that we would have liked, especially in the earlier videos. Which I have to tell you, if that was an earlier video, I have to tell you that when we first started this, Patrick, it was kind of goofing around. And I like to mention this because it was a father-son thing, basically, right, Patrick? Patrick was really good at. Patrick started his videography with filming his skateboarding, and he would actually film himself skateboarding, going off ramps. Right? Do you remember that, Patrick?
Yeah.
With that expensive video camera. So he's got really good experience with the camera angles and everything else. I'll just catch up. There's some interesting things here. Lee said, I'm lucky a church member who learned upholstery at local community college in the 1990s is teaching me since I always wanted to learn upholstery. That's great. Lee's also says, just curious about the rumor that cotton holds more dust than Dacron. Is that true? Probably, because Dacron is porous. I mean, cotton, you hold cotton up to the light, you can't see through it. You hold up Dacron to the light, and it's porous. So I would imagine that dust goes through Dacron, but stays in cotton. That makes sense to me. Elliot says, craft store covered buttons separate easily. I think so, Elliot. That's my experience, because there's no way you can duplicate the energy that it takes to make an upholstery, with especially heavy fabrics. Like my button machine could do mohair and leather buttons. There's a technique to that too, and the key word is silicone. With leather, silicone. Always remember silicone if you're doing leather buttons. It's the only way to do it. Not oil. Silicone. But the energy that it takes. So when I make a button, any button, I have my dies. They're all set up, and it's the press. The handle comes down. It presses these two together, and the force. I'm putting some force behind it. And then what I do? Excuse me. I take the handle and I hit it down for good measure, and then I take the button off, and then make sure that I look at it to make sure that it's sealed. But then, like I said, if you take these buttons and you really pull them, if they pull apart, they shouldn't pull apart. You shouldn't if you're doing it with a real button machine. But I think you'd be better off doing with that hand stitching that I talked about. Actually, Lee says, "Where to get the button machine die?" Wait a minute. Where to get the button machine die is shopping locally. The ones my friend has make buttons are getting dull. You have to be careful doing that too. I think she might be talking about. I think, Lee, what you're talking about is the cutting die, not the other dies. So I don't use a cutting die. This is another thing, you guys. A little tip: don't use the cutting die. I'll tell you why. Because it cuts it just a little too small. So this is a real skill that I learned early. I take the die, the top die where you put your shell, not the shank, and I use that. You can make a cardboard cutout of it if you want, and I use that around the die for my cut. The cut die makes it too small. That's my opinion. So I don't even use them. I have some, but I don't use them. If you were in the area, I'd give them to you. And I don't know I wouldn't know how to shop in a round die like that. Maybe with a file, a hand file or something. Is there another question over there, Michaela?
Yes. No more questions. But the last comment, it just says nice video on the sewing machine 101 for upholstery.
That sewing machine video. I don't get into a lot of the sewing, although we do have a nice line with Bernice, right, Patrick, that people should check out. Bernice is one of the best stitches I've ever seen. And she's taught at least two classes, Patrick, each one 2 or 3 with a lot of videos in them. If you want to learn about sewing machine mechanics, that's the video for you. But let's get now to what I started talking about, and that's fabrics and how to pick. First of all, I just want to show a couple of the Anna Elizabeth fabrics. I'll start with. I love these performance fabrics. So, what's a performance fabric? It says Krypton up here, which is a treatment, right? So, somebody asked a question. They had a fabric, but there's no identification on it. So, if you're running, these are first run fabrics, okay? So if you're running first run fabrics, and when you're talking to your clients are, especially in the Boston area, they're very intuitive and inquisitive. They want to know. They want to make sure that the fabric that they're putting the money into, the labor, they want to make sure the fabric's going to hold up. So this is one of the best fabrics one of my main sellers here. But it depends on your situation too. I mean, if you've got kids and dogs and cats, you might want the performance planch. With the main thing is the soil and stain repellent. Uh, that's important. And then it says heavy duty and 100,000 double rubs. Remember, I was talking earlier about some fabrics, and I don't mind picking on manufacturers because they used to pick on upholsterers, Patrick. Remember? I won't mention the manufacturer, but they had some very negative upholstery commercials on. Well, I might as well talk about it. Should I talk about it?
Well, sorry to interrupt, but I want to make sure you might have already talked about it. Did you already address Nicole's email?
No.
Oh, okay.
Can you read it to me?
I'll have Michaela do it.
Where is it?
You actually sent it to me.
I sent
You
you.
forwarded it to me, yeah.
I don't know. I can't get a hold of it right now, Patrick.
Well, I have it here. It just says, "Hi everyone, just letting you know that I'm watching the live TV."
Yeah, that was a follow up from her first email, which is really good question. Project here.
Let her read it, Pat.
I don't have the question here.
Oh,
I'm gonna forward it to you, Dad, so you can read it from your phone. Show the picture, okay?
it was an interesting one, wasn't it? Hold on, you guys. Nicole?
Yeah.
She says, just letting you know I'm watching
Yeah,
the
that
live,
wasn't the one. It was before that.
but I don't have I don't see it, Patrick. All inboxes, it
Can you
does.
forward this back to?
Does it? Well, let me
Go back to
keep
my
talking
lab.
about. Let's get back to that because I want to talk a little bit more about this. So 100,000 double rubs, which is like off the chart, good. Usually I recommend 20,000 and above is heavy duty, but 100,000 is almost commercial grade. And some people like that because they know if they have 2 or 3 kids and they're in a kitchen area, they know how much use it's going to get. They actually like hearing. It doesn't scream of when you say commercial use. It doesn't scream of the old commercial fabrics were sterile. They were like, no, I got hides, and they felt really synthetic. These fabrics here, they might be synthetics, but what we've done, what the industry's been able to do, you guys, is if you didn't see that was a poly, you'd feel this is cotton. This feels like cotton, and that's the advancement, the scientific advancements in synthetic fibers, and that's what you're always looking for, is to duplicate the softness, the feel of natural fibers. Natural fibers, though, guys, are very expensive. They can be very expensive and high maintenance. These are actually better maintained. I think they hold the color dye better. I think they're long lasting fabrics. I know they are. So I did want to just follow up. I hate to pick on manufacturers, but do you think that they're going to pick $100,000 double rub for a living room set that they're selling in the hopes that you're going to come back and buy another living room set in 5 years? No way. So a lot of times, what they do, the game that they play, and they got caught during COVID because of that double rub. They were using low double rubs, 3,000. You guys want to, if there's a manufacturer out there watching, if you want to challenge me on this, I'll be happy to have a debate if you want. But what they're doing is they want you. The double rubs are probably 3,000, maybe 5,000. But what they're trying to do is time the seating. They got the seating down to a science before COVID. 5 years, 5 to 7 years, you start seeing wear, and the seams start to fall apart, and then that's a good time frame to remember that where you bought the furniture, and then you go back and buy new. But fabrics should last 20 years, you guys. Integrity matters, Don says. In the long run, it will matter. In the short run, you might think you're getting somewhere, but in the long run, I think it matters a great deal. Yeah. So Nicole says, "Hi, Kevin and company. I was delighted to recently come across several of your YouTube videos for gaining reupholstery knowledge. I'm hoping you would be willing to give me a little initial guidance on a project I'm in the middle of so I can continue with teardown. I've attached photos of where I'm at in the process for quick grounding. Right now, I'm stuck as I'm uncertain what order should be best. 1, attaching fabric. 2, making the necessary release cuts, and the inside back panel, the corner furniture pieces when recovering. Wow, this is loaded with questions here. Considering the new fabric has stripes, isn't very stretchy, and the furniture pieces have such straight edges. I'm sorry to be reading fast, but I know that there are other things I need to do. But there's simpler answers to this. So she's got a. So let's say she's asking a lot of questions on this chair. This is actually a Parsons chair. Parsons chairs, I'm going to tell you not to discourage you. Parsons chairs are a little bit harder than any other chair. So what you need to do, you've seen the videos where I show you how to measure the fabric first. Measuring fabric is important to oversize each piece that you cut. You know, you'll see that on a lot of the videos, Patrick, a lot of the free videos. But on the pieces that that are paid for, right? The videos that are paid for, it goes into more detail about this. So the key is to cut your pieces a little bit bigger. And she's asking the progression. So usually it's the seat and the deck first. It's usually let's say it's an upholstered chair, and then the inside back, and then in her case she has to do the border. That's the next thing around the base, and then the outside back gets done unless the border goes to the outside back, which in most cases it doesn't. I hope that answers her question, but there's so much to that. That would be like a 10-week class, you know. So I would say that logically you can figure this out with the videos. There's over how many, Patrick? Over 450 videos or so. So we're really excited about it because we've noticed an uptick, you guys, and thanks to you guys. We noticed on the comment. I don't know if you're looking at the comments over here, Patrick, but there's an uptick, I think, of people watching the live shows.
I think they like this format better with you in front of the computer.
Yeah, I just got to get my wife to do a little makeup next time, though. Nicole said she forwarded. Yep, we got it. I have to repair something. Dort says I have to repair something made with BLECH, not fake leather. Blah, blah. I guess that's an exclamation point. I mean, what can I use to patch it? The top layer is cracked. I'll tell you something. If you come up with a solution to that, you might have a good business for yourself. I have no recommendation for faux leather at all. Another one of my pet peeves. I won't use it. I'm going to have to talk a little bit to Greenhouse about their faux leathers. If they can convince me, everything else they do is great. It's just that I've seen too many of these faux leather, not Greenhouse, manufactured faux leathers that come to me after very short amounts of time with the peeling. I don't like it. And real leather's the only way to go, really, but it's so expensive. Nobody ever wants to do it. Creative creature from JL from Arizona, Patrick. Don says integrity matters. Nicole says, I'm wondering about the inner back panel specifically. Attached top and bottom. Oh, another loaded question. So I understand her question more now. So what you want to do is pin tack, cut your fabric 3 inches bigger overall, 1.5 inches on each side. Pin tack the top, bring the top around, pin tack the top. Now, for you guys who don't know, pin tacking is a 6-ounce tack usually. Or forget about the staple for now. A tack that's put in halfway or enough just to hold the fabric, not all the way in, just enough to hold the fabric. You could dress it up. You don't have to go all the way to the ends, but you could go right across the back to about 1 inch from each end. You pull it through to the back, the bottom, pull it, tack it only one tack in the middle on the bottom. Okay? Then you have to cut your posts out. And make sure that when you're cutting the post out, you're going from the inside. Sorry, let me show you. The inside the inside out to the edge of the post, and then just a little another second cut that carries the fabric around. And then what you want to do after you get both of those cut, I know I'm speeding this up a little bit, guys. You want to pin tack the entire bottom, including the pleat that's coming around the back. And then you go to the top again, and then you have to stretch it to the top half side at a time. Don't undo the whole top, then you lose the stretch that you already have. Undo a half side at a time, stretch that, repin tack that, then do the other side, leaving the middle tack in. The last tack you want to adjust or take out and put back in is the middle. And then what you want to do is go to a side, keep your pleat, your corner open up at the top, about an inch and a half. Pull it up to the top, get a pin tack to the top, and then pin tack a little gently stretching and pin tack the entire sides. And then I'm not going to go into the pleat because that's a whole reference some of the videos for the pleat because that I don't even know if I can describe that. You have to see that. I hope I did a good job. And Malcolm, we have a big. You should see this, Patrick. Are you seeing this?
The crew today?
Yeah. So Malcolm says there are leather repair services you can find online, mostly auto work, and they do couches too. I didn't know that. No, so Nicole says because there are stripes and not stretchy. Okay, so stripe. Nicole, you just picked a tough fabric. Stripes aren't as bad as plaids, and usually stripes run vertical. So there is stretching to be considered. You have to consider the fabric when you're stretching for sure. It's sometimes for instance, with stripes and plaids, it requires more stretching, but you have to have the fabric. The fabric has to be stretched to a point. You don't want it wrinkled. So plaids and stripes have to be stretched as much as a solid fabric, but there's different techniques to that. And it's just, you know what, you just have to slow it down a little bit, not stretch as much and repin and repin and repin a lot. I hope you follow what I'm saying. Don says, I discourage faux leathers too. They don't hold up. I think Dawn's a professional upholsterer. Is she? Because that's just what it sounds like. Creative Creatures. I know this is more carpentry related, but are there any books that you could recommend on making sofa frames? That's interesting because sofa frames very what is the word, customized or custom, yeah, very unique because usually a sofa frame you're working with an upholsterer. Upholsterers have to like your sofa frame because there's a lot of pulling with the fabric like I just mentioned and extra little pieces of wood for pulling fabric around and things like that, and the scale has to be. A lot of woodworkers who don't know will build a piece of wood without padding in mind, right? Or a piece of furniture without padding in mind. That's a problem. All right. So you always have to keep when you're making a sofa frame, you always have to keep the padding in mind because it's really not as big, right? Does that make sense? It's really. We used to have a place called State Parlor Frame in Boston that were the best. They were the best. I don't think they're around anymore. So most of my work is a reupholstery of already existing sofa frames and chair frames. Dort says, I'm wondering if I scrape off the top layer, if I can adhere it with fabric glue with something more durable. I'm not sure what that means. Manufacturers ruin faux leather using the low grade material. Thank you, Tabitha. Tabitha knows you guys. She's my greenhouse go-to person now, Tabitha. Thank you. And unfortunately, the reputation of faux leathers has been damaged as a result of the poor quality. So you're going to have to sell me on it, Tabitha. Sell me on that. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about performance on that. George says, you are so right that integrity matters. I prefer real leather for sure. Nicole says, very helpful. Thank you. Thank you, Nicole. I know, Nicole, that I can't address the whole thing. Leather is very nice, Malcolm says, but suppliers here charge $300 to $600 per hide. It really is expensive because what the conversion rate is. Oh boy, I'm committing myself. 52 square feet I believe, to one yard of fabric. Think about that. And some of these leathers are $30 a square foot, Malcolm. Some of them are very expensive. So we don't do a lot of it at all. Lee says, "Is Naugahyde fake leather?" Yeah, Naugahyde. Tabitha will tell you, Naugahyde was the first brand name that came out, and it was tough. This was good. Naugahyde would last forever, but it was so thick and so hard to work, and it felt so institutionalized. Inst- Did you hear what I said, Patrick? I said institutionalized. You can joke about that if you want. Institutional is what I meant to say. Yeah, on the, I'm laughing at my own jokes.
Sorry, I can't. I'm struggling here. I can't.
What?
I'm struggling here. I can barely talk. So
The fake leather, George says, the fake leather is 2 layers. It's kind of stretchy. The top layer is picking off, but the stretchy substrate is fine. Yeah, it usually is, but it doesn't do you much good. Malcolm said, Naugahyde is still made in USA. Good material for commercial seating, right? Right, Malcolm? Yeah, I agree. Elliot says, the faux suede I'm planning on using for a lounge chair is rated 102,000 double rubs. That should last. Yeah. No, Elliot, I think that's good. And Don says, I had a good joke. I misspoke. Malcolm takes some. I have been wondering about having clients use Naugahyde instead of fake leather. Yeah. Listen, Tabitha, if you want to jump in here, we have a lot of these questions. A lot of the times this comes up. We're gonna be featuring her fabrics, greenhouse fabrics. I'm gonna get back to this now. So I have a pile. First of all, I want to get to. A lot of people have questions about yardages. Speaking about the conversion rate of leather fabric, fabric amounts to leather amounts. That's interesting. I have a whole pile of past jobs that I have. A lot of these are your Tabitha. A lot of these are your. I think maybe most of them, or if not all of them, are your fabrics. So we had John. It was a customer. He has a 6-inch cushion, a 26 by 71 by 6 inches. So when I look at a cushion like that, how do I figure fabric? Let me give you those measurements again. 26 by 71 by 6 inches. Now fabric, when I look at this, I say 71 inches. Right off the top of the bat, that's 2 yards of fabric. But you have 2 sides of the cushion and you have a 6-inch border. So you have to be careful with these, because if somebody wants piping, you want to make sure you have enough fabric to have one string of piping without any piecing. And if you want to talk to your client like that, it means more fabric but a better job. So these things take a little bit of skill. I've been doing this so long, I can do this. So I look at this 26 by 71 by 6 inch with the piping. I'm going to want at least 6 yards for this. I want at least 5.5. I know that if I get 6 yards, I'm going to be able to cut my top and my bottom and a 6-inch piece, and then I'm going to be able to get piping all the way around in one piece. The only piece will be in the back of the cushion. So I'm just going to quickly go through some of these. I want to get to some that have. So I have a club chair. This was a regular club chair with no skirt. It was a with no skirt. And it didn't have 2 cushions. It only had 1 cushion. So the other thing I try not to do, you guys, I try not to overestimate on the yardage. And I do offer. I'm going to offer some criticism for people. Some people who are in the business who don't know, like designers, for instance, they will always this number would be doubled. Now I don't think they're doing it to gouge people. I think their mentality. If you're not doing the work, if you're not a professional at estimating the outages, and this is important. If you guys want to be competitive, if you want to be in business, you want to be competitive with the guy down the street who's doubling up his yardages, right? And you're coming in really kind of close and clean and just enough fabric, you're going to get the job. So 6 yards for club chair, you'd say, boy, is that enough? Well, this one was just a loose cushion, no skirt. 6 yards was just enough. So why do some people go over? They want to make sure they don't run out of fabric. Run out of fabric and not being able to get fabric, that can cost you a lot of money. But this is the competitiveness of the at least where I'm working on the level that I'm working on. It can be very competitive. So if I'm really good at yardage estimates, I might get the job over somebody that isn't as good or is a little scared. I don't blame them for being scared. Some of these mistakes can cost you a couple of $1,000s. And then let me just catch up. Malcolm thinks, since I've been wondering about having clients use Naugahyde instead of fake leather. I already read that. Malcolm says the fake leather is polyurethane and it suffers from hydrolysis when it separates. I don't even know what that means, Malcolm. It feels nice for a few years, then falls apart. That's in layman's terms. I can understand that, Malcolm. The scientific stuff, not so much. 15 square feet is a yard. You might want to check that out, Malcolm. I'm not sure how you're referencing a yard of fabric. You might be talking about a square yard of fabric. When I use the conversion, what I mentioned is 52 square feet is an upholsterer's yard, which is 54 by 36 inches. So that's the standard that we had when we were in the business. Now, a lot of that too. There's a lot of waste that's considered in that. What you have to remember when they're measuring leather, this is another thing about leather that's costly. Leather is, when you stretch it out, it looks like this. It's your four legs, right? And then there's a big area here that's missing, right? All of this is counted. All of the waste is counted as square feet. It's not just the interior that they use. And you might be referencing the interior, Malcolm, which I can understand. But I'm referencing when you buy a hide of leather, they're measuring the entire leather, even the useless parts that you couldn't use them anywhere. So keep that in mind. If a customer is buying a remnant or a material I cannot get quickly or is discontinued, I do recommend they buy extra. Worth having a little extra replacement seat top for rebuild. And I think communication is important to tell your client that. Most people will be able to understand that, Malcolm, and pay. They don't want you to run out of fabric. They don't want that problem. So here we got an interesting one. This was 2 club chairs, no skirt, French stitching, as is. Customer's own material. Sorry, Tabitha. We have a note here to run the fabric horizontal, and I don't have. I think that I don't have a yard adjustment for you on this one for some reason. But anyhow, I just want to try to read through these. A wing chair, standard on a wing chair is usually 7 yards, unless it's an oversized wing chair. And I always make a note when I'm selling fabric, and this was Tabitha. This was S's and Sam 4218 persimmon, your fabric, and this is a 7-yard piece that I have usually on my work orders. Make sure that the work order gets all the information, you guys. There's no point in taking notes if it's not on the work order. You're going to lose the notes, or if they're separate from the work order, just accidents can happen. Everything goes on this work order, and in here I wrote vertical. Even if it looked obvious, sometimes I want to communicate to the customer. Sometimes that's the communication is to the customer, not so much me even, but just to let the customer know. You'd be surprised when people look at fabric, what they're thinking. Some people think stripes should run sideways. So you always make sure you have that discussion when you're picking fabric on. I think this is part of the segment that I was talking about that I want to develop this. It's going to extend these YouTube live shows, Patrick, by quite a bit when we start really talking about fabrics, about how to estimate fabrics, what fabrics look good on certain pieces, and coloring. I'm gonna rely on Michaela off camera a lot when we start getting going on this. She's really good at color, and she's good at scale too, Michaela. But I want to start that as a segment, and we'll let you guys know how we're going to make these available to you, these fabrics, how we're going to present them too. So that will be fun. Patrick, how many minutes are we into this so far? Because I know we don't want to bore people, right? An hour and 4 minutes. Patrick.
Say it up in the corner.
Oh, I just saw it. So we have 13 likes and 10 dislikes up here. Is that right? Okay. Well, we're not as popular as we thought we were, right? No, I'm just kidding. It looks like we got 7 thumbs up. Do you guys ever go fabric shopping with clients? That's a good question. From F. Dort. That is more of a designer that will do that, and a designer pays for their time. So if I was smart and if I wanted to make money, or if Michaela wants to make money, she would call herself a designer, put herself on the clock, and make sure she takes the long way to the design center, like Patrick, go during rush hour, and then spend all day in there. And really, they charge by the hour. You can do pretty good, and people will pay. But I find that that's a whole different kind of stratosphere. That's a whole different thing, and I've been into the design center. I've taken people in there, but I've not charged them. I don't do that anymore because I have this fabulous company that I deal with. I'm like, it's like I'm dealing with 12 designers actually themselves, and they're very helpful. So I don't need to be traveling like I used to travel in the old days. We're getting more questions. Uh, Don sa- says he's done it, taking people in to fabric shop. It's a huge time sink. Now I charge. And then Don says, I've done it both ways. Sometimes I guide them to research fabric on their own, which is a good idea. And afterwards says the dislikes don't count. They probably had a bad day. Tabitha says design centers can be overwhelming. I agree, and they really are. It's like it's like a carnival. It's like all these bells and whistles going off, and if you've got ADHD or ADD, oh boy, is that can that be an adventure? I mean, there's an alphabet soup going on up here. I don't need that as a distraction. That's for sure. That's why we rely on Michaela and Tabitha and all the girls down there, North Carolina, North Carolina. After it says, "Do you charge a flat fee or by the hour?" I charge a flat fee. Um, you know, Michaela is really good. When people come to our shop, so what they do is they go through me. If I can't, somebody came in the other day. Michaela, you should know this. They already gave us a deposit on the labor. He's gonna be coming in. Really, they need you because he came through the first kind of like the first would be me. I'm the first filter. I can help. I do I do help people with fabric, but then there's a certain point where even I know that color. Some people have a more uh, finer taste for color. It's not that they're being difficult; they just know what they like, and sometimes that requires Michaela. So she'll jump in and she'll make an appointment, and she is really good at finding the right. And she's got the confidence. Of course, that's what a degree will do you too, right, Michaela? That degree gives you the confidence, doesn't it? That mass art degree. Michaela is a great asset to have in the company for sure. Lee says, I have noticed that last year in my area, the clients we do furniture upholstery for, I picked tweed. I'm assuming tweed is popular again. Yeah, I think so. Malcolm says, I went to a fabric supplier last week and was overcome by the fumes. I had to leave before I passed out. First time that happened. Oh, that's serious. I had ad, and then afterwards says, I have ad, and I'm creative. A fabric or craft place is the proverbial uh, rabbit hole I get lost in. Yeah, really, really. So I just do a couple of more of these because usually now, Patrick, is it bad to go over too long because we don't
No,
want to bore people to death, right?
more the better.
And this part. I don't feel as though I got to read every one of these because there's a lot of them. This is going to be a regular part of what we're going to be doing moving forward. And Tabitha is going to be a big part of this. So I'm going to be relying on Tabitha to help out and how we're going to help you guys, maybe help you with the process to buy fabric, especially people who are beginners. We're going to be the people I hope that you come to for fabric because I think we know what we're talking about as you've seen. We can save money. We can save you money instead of over ordering. There's a lot of over ordering that does go on. So we got one simple chair here, a side chair, 1 yard of fabric, It's the F3407 Pesto, and I have a note here to double pipe. So double piping and trimming can be very interesting with different fabrics. For instance, if you have a striped fabric and you want to put a double piping on it, you do a bias cut on a striped fabric, especially a really like a pinstripe, which I'm going to be doing. I'm not sure what this one was. I can't remember. But and then you get this look. It's like a twill look. It's like Schumacher used to make these beautiful trims. And you cut a piece of pinstripe fabric on the bias cut. This is the things that get me excited. I mean, I'm not excited about the new running back for the Patriots as much as I am. Maybe I'm a little weird, Patrick, as I am for the for that pinstripe double piping going around that dining room chair. So yeah, I'm just having a little fun. I do like football though, not as much as some people. I'll do one more. This is for 2 slip seats. And I have a note here, save old fabric, save extra fabric, and it's a COM, custom own material. Sorry again, Tabitha. We didn't get that one. So I think I'm gonna save a lot of these for the next week. And in between now and next week, we're gonna be talking to Greenhouse about how to best together how to best help people buying fabric, purchasing fabric, estimating fabric, which is huge. And we're going to try to streamline it. And so, look forward to that. Look forward to, you can order, the way I look at it, you can order samples. We can put packages of samples together for you if you're not sure of the fabrics that you see online. We can consult obviously with the amount of fabric that you need, the type of fabric that you need, the scale of the fabric, the piece that you're working on. There's a lot of little hidden things that we're expert at. Instead of you going out, like we had somebody who went out and bought fabric without any identification, and they're using methods like holding it up to the light to see if we want to try to prevent things like that. So look forward to that, you guys. And I'm just going to read the rest of these. Elliot has a good comment here, I think. He says, I bias cut all the piping on my sofa, even the plain fabric, Elliot, even the plain fabric, mostly because trying to match the stripe on the welt to the body and cushions rest would be next to impossible for sure. And you might say, well, I walked into one of these low-end manufacturers and all of this stripe welting matched the boxes and the top of the cushion. How come they could do it and you can't? Well, the honest truth is they have machines that make the whole cushion at once, if you can believe it, Elliot. I think, Elliot, you might know. Malcolm would know. They actually have machines that make the entire cushion. It's not separate. The piping, that's why they can match the stripe. And that's why you'll never see a bias cut on one of those pieces either. So that's pretty funny. So anyhow, this has been very lively, you guys. I think this is one of the longest live shows we've done, and I think it's going to be the addition of the fabric segment that we're going to do. It's probably going to end up being this long, and so let us know what you think about that moving forward about this idea about the fabrics and trying to help you guys out there with the fabrics. And Malcolm says he prefers bias welting. So Patrick, I think that will be it. Lee says, wow, no wonder everything matches on new furniture pieces. Lee, a lot of people don't realize that. Yeah, so they can afford the machinery. You're welcome, Donna. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate all you guys out there. We'll see you next
Good one,
time.
huh?
Yeah, that was a good one. Thanks,
one.
Patrick.
Thanks, guys.
All right, take it easy, you guys.
If I can figure out how to end this.
You want to sit down?
There's the end thing.